Welcome to Second Take. We are talking everything that happened this last week, except some things have been happening for over 40 years, like Museveni's rule. We're also going to be talking about the G20, of which America thought the other countries would be like, you say I'm going to a party, so my friends aren't going to a party, but turns out the friends are okay with going to the party without you. We're going to discuss that. Emmerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe has sort of kind of said he's not going to extend his rule post-2028. And Irene-Mari Van der Walt joins us to dissect these stories and more. My name is Ashwyn Mberi. This is Second Take. Welcome to the show.
It all began with ink on paper, a small but powerful voice that reached the homes of Namibians, sharing their stories, their triumphs, their struggles. As the world evolved, so did we. From the presses to your screens, keeping you connected to the news that matters, wherever you are. We didn't stop at digital. We brought the action to life on your screens, covering the moments that unite us all. We're not just a source of information. We're your partner in exploration, booking your stay, paying for your meals, and even sending your event tickets straight to your phone. Reaching over 1 million people daily, we are a fully integrated system, working together to make your life easier. Whether it's news, events, or everyday information, we've brought it all together. We're committed to empowering the next generation. Through partnerships and innovation, we're delivering education to every corner of Namibia. We've become so much more. More than news, more than information. We're here to help you enjoy everything Namibia has to offer. NTV, so much more than just television.
All right, welcome to Second Take. Welcome back, rather. You are with Ashwyn Mberi and Irene-Mari Van der Walt, my trusted sidekick, as we dissect what has been happening with regards to the news stories across Africa in the last week. So we start off in Uganda, and it's an interesting one. You see, human rights activists, lawyers, and medical practitioners in East Africa called on the Ugandan government to release opposition leader Kizza Besigye, who has spent 3 months in military detention. I want you to keep the words military in your head and 3 months as well. Just stay with us. He was abducted while on a trip to Kenya in November and was recently rushed to a hospital after going on a hunger strike to protest his imprisonment. What is interesting was this special part, this one thing you don't want to miss. He just also happens to be a politician who ran against Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni in not one, not two, but 3 elections.
Oops, by accident. What a coinky.
What a coincidence. So Museveni is still at it. There's no other way around it. 3 months detention. And for an opposition leader, of course, he deals with them in many different ways. Bobby Wine has had his fair share of Museveni, you know what I mean? Do you know how bad a situation has to be for your name to literally be Wine and you're not happy? Like, your name is Wine.
But what I want to hear is there any explanation coming from the ruling party and from their government at this point as to why? Why is he in military detention?
They aren't saying much, and
bad.
Museveni actually mocked the fact that he went, because Besigye went on a hunger strike, and Museveni just mocked that fact, called him weak and all sorts of nonsense. And it's so interesting because, the guy's been in power for so many years. His power is so fully consolidated, yet he still, touches on things. You'll see that also last week, he reversed, this was in our last episode, he reversed the decision of the Supreme Court. So nothing says you have absolute power more than that. It's not like Donald Trump's absolute power.
Yeah.
Because Donald Trump has absolute power.
But the Supreme Court could tell him to stop.
Or just Elon Musk. So the main thing is, this is absolute power. And you can see it because you and I were chatting during the week. You sent me a very interesting message. You can see how Museveni wields power just looking at his son, who is the head of the military in Uganda, how brazen he is. When he talks about, folks being eliminated, in the name of his father. Museveni is running a very, hectic machine. But I get thrown off, Irene, because at the same time, I have to congratulate Uganda, because in the last week, Uganda released their last 8 Ebola patients. They got that done. They sorted that out, and you can't take that away from the president's work in the health sector. But when the same president who's responsible for that health sector is mocking a political opponent for going on a hunger strike and calling him weak, you start to realize with a lot of these dictators, they maintain a certain level of functionality, but ultimately the values remain the same.
Yeah, I mean, in the same vein, you could pose the question that, is a murderer a bad person for having murdered someone? Is the entire person bad? Is all of it bad? Or are they a person who happened to have bad motivations on one subject and did one bad thing?
And what is the context? Because, I mean, technically soldiers are murderers. I mean, you can call it, killing with peacekeeping. You can call it what you want. Even if you call it killing, we know what's not being said, right? But there's a context to that. Yeah. No, I mean, I hear you. But with regards to this, are we talking about Museveni? I mean, when you've got over 40 years in power, the other messed up thing about that, which is also just true, everything that's wrong, you're responsible for.
Yeah.
Because no one else has had the power to change things. So we're going to be keeping an eye on Uganda, seeing how all of that progresses. But I'm telling you, it's not trending in the right direction. Now, in the next story, and in this story only, we're going to refer to Museveni again. Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa said he'll retire when his current term ends in 2028, rejecting a proposal by the ruling party to extend his tenure by another 2 years. Here's a video of the president speaking in his own words.
I put it very clear, that I'm very clear, that I have 2 terms, and these terms are very definite. And I'm so democratic. When they come to an end, I'll step aside and my party will elect my successor. That is as clear as day. Those who have other imaginations, it's a democratic society for people to dream. But facts will take day.
Can you be persuaded, and will you be persuaded to serve beyond 2028?
I'll persuade the persuaders, not to persuade me.
All right, so there you have it, Irene. He says, I am a constitutionalist. I have my 2 terms. When they come to an end, the country and the party will move on by electing my successor. You know what I found very interesting about the clip was how difficult it is when you function from a place of ego to not let the ego speak first. Yeah. You know what I mean? Some people said, no, sir, there are people who are pushing this 2030 agenda. The first thing he had to address was, I'm unpushable. I cannot imagine anyone in Zimbabwe who can push me.
But me.
But me, essentially. I push. And that's the problem, right? Because he's saying that no one can tell him what to do, but he's not explicitly condemning the people who are calling to move. To amend the constitution. And notably, the current constitution in Namibia is not the first one that it's had, in Zimbabwe rather. They began with the Lancaster House constitution in 1999, which is a constitution which was proposed and went to a referendum where the majority voted against it. In 2013, under the inclusive government, they adopted the present constitution. Parliament's duty is to enact laws, including delegating legislative authority to other legally and properly constituted institutions. So it's also untrue that a constitution cannot be amended.
Yeah.
And that is the real issue over here. I mean, the guy is saying, I'm going to leave when it is my time to leave. But if someone else reframes what that time means, it feels like you're going to stay. And what's interesting, Irene, and this is where Museveni comes in, and my goodness, Museveni, sir, just letting you know, we're open to sponsorship. You spend a lot of time on the show. Museveni said, I've got articles, you're going to see them just now, but over 6 of them, where he said, I'm going to step down. When my time is done, I'm going to leave. It's been over 40 years.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, all these amendments of the constitution in Zimbabwe happened whilst Emerson Mnangagwa was Mugabe's right-hand man. Whether or not he was vice president is another story. But what he was his right-hand man, he saw these things through. And now the same person is saying, but don't worry about me. I'm not like the other guys. I was with the other guys. Birds of a feather may flock together, but, you know, my wings are different.
No, I think this is a recurring theme in African politics, not just in one or two countries in Africa. This promise that I will uphold the spirit of our constitution, I will uphold the spirit of this nation that I promised during the liberation struggle, during, you know, whatever struggles we had. I promised you a certain spirit, and I promised you that I was of a certain fabric and of a certain character.
100%.
And I promise I will do it. In a couple of years, and then a couple of years later, everybody's conveniently forgotten about it.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, people always keep their own agenda when they get into these things. What's very ironic is when the clip we just saw played on ZBC, it's not an exact clip, you know, from a different angle from their cameras. While the national broadcaster was airing his meeting with media heads, it was simultaneously running ticker information. We all know that the ticker, you know, goes under the broadcast.
For those of you not in the industry, it's that thing at the bottom.
Yes. The Publicity and Broadcasting Services Minister, Jenfan Muswere, said constitutional amendments to extend ED's rule to 2030 are ready. So literally, while the video of him saying he's not going to, you know, extend his rule is playing, his minister just under there on the ticker is saying, no, we're actually ready to take it to 2030.
You could if you wanted to.
That's the simple thing. I mean, how much can someone do in your house when you're the head of the household?
Anything, really.
No, I mean, I'm saying, but without your permission or without your knowledge, to get my point. Like, if you have a house, you're running the house, you're quote unquote the king or the queen of the house. You know, everybody, you kind of define the rules, right?
Yeah.
But this guy is essentially saying, I mean, these people are in my house. I know them. They are my children. They're saying they're going to extend the rule. I'm not saying anything to them. I'm not going to stop them, but you should just take my word for it.
Yeah, that's the big thing again in African politics. There's this theme that black on white says one thing, and we're making sure that our rules and regulations and our laws say one thing, and then our leaders, when we're unhappy with them, they just kind of go, trust me, bro, I swear I'll be better.
But I have to say this, you know, when you say that to me, that makes Donald Trump Pan-African. You know what I'm saying? Okay, not, you know what I mean, not necessarily actually Pan-African, but I'm saying everything that you said is kind of how they're doing it in America. They're essentially setting up an oligarchy, you know what I mean? And he's got, you know, Elon Musk and the other trusted South Africans that he's got over there, and he himself, they're doing a lot of amendments, a lot of twisting of narratives, you know, in order to get the best out of their own agenda. Yeah. And so it's good to know that, you know, in spite of the fact that Donald Trump barely visits, or has he ever even visited Africa, he should know that he's one of the guys, and we need to give him a name. We need to give Donald an African name. What do you think we should give him?
I would go in the same vein as Cupcake for Cyril.
Okay, Cupcake is nice because that is Cyril. You see a cupcake, you want to smile. Cyril Ramaphosa makes you want to smile.
Yeah. Maybe we should play off the orange. Make him like a cheese curl or something.
Cheese curl. Yeah. You know, no, tell you what, popping KFC. KFC
Truly
might be
African
American,
combo,
but you know, I think we can make that work. We'll find a name for you, but I can thematically put you under popping KFC. And on the KFC side, just on the emphasis of how, you know, fatty foods can be unhealthy for you, not necessarily with how good it tastes. And my goodness, it does taste good. Now, we just mentioned Cupcake. Sorry. President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, and he spent the week doing what he's had to do in the last couple of weeks, telling the world, we are not what America is saying we are, in all sorts of
send
tweets. You know what I mean? Just constantly. So now the G20 summit is happening. Happened in South Africa. US isn't going. Marco Rubio did not show up to this region. Do you miss him? No? Okay.
I didn't know he was supposed to be there.
Oh, there we go. So the US pulled out. They said we're not coming through because of the way that they view South Africa diplomatically right now, which we will get into. But the other countries showed up. Russia was first to it. I mean, Lavrov, one of the Russians, he's been the chief negotiator for Russia. He was in Saudi Arabia previously, still made time to come through. China, of course, is there. Because remember, like we spoke about, you're sitting there, you're thinking that you can, take someone for granted whilst everybody else is in their DMs. And what's so interesting is that South Africa has the strongest economy in Africa, and things like our AGOA are things which actually serve the US better than they serve Africa. Isn't it now becoming so obvious that Trump might be running on a racist agenda when it comes to Africa, because he's not expecting any intellectual work to have been done behind the decisions that we make? He thinks he needs to make decisions for us, and he's barely researching, getting half-baked information about Africa. You know what I mean? From a small group of people. You know what I mean? How are you talking about white South Africans and you never watched the Springboks game? I mean, come on, mate.
But that's why he's inviting them. They're saying he's inviting them now so that they can win the World Cup in a couple of years when they host.
That's not going to happen. Because first of all, that World Cup is a football World Cup. I've watched Bafana
No, it's
play.
rugby.
Oh, Rugby World Cup.
Rugby World Cup.
No, that's definitely not going to happen. You had more luck trying to go for the other stuff. What's likely is that they get the rugby players and they try to get them into the NFL. I think that might be something that they go with. But it's been very twisted. And speaking of some of those groups, in South Africa, one of those groups was protesting at the U.S. Embassy, asking for Donald Trump's intervention. Goodness knows with regards to what. And they sang the apartheid anthem. And I think now we can draw a line if we hadn't already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
We can draw a line, because what does that mean for what we have felt we have built since independence? And I'm going to say we, because, Namibia, South Africa have got similar but very different communities. But some of the sentiments stemming from certain communities are across the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm a born free. I was born after the end of apartheid. And for me, it's just infuriating.
This is going to be hilarious, and I need you to forgive me. But technically, if you're born in apartheid, you'll still be born free. I'm just throwing that out there. But I hear you.
I'd have been born more free than some other people.
But you were born into a free society.
Yes.
Yes, into a free
and one that's meant to be equal. And it's just infuriating to me, because my entire life I've spent loving this identity as being an African, being one with brothers and sisters who don't look like me, who don't speak the same language, who don't have the same culture, and creating a shared culture with them.
Absolutely.
And my whole argument with this US thing, there's now rumors that if you go to the US, you won't be allowed to come back to the country that you sought asylum from.
That's asylum.
But if you don't want to pull with us, then go. Bye-bye. We'll WhatsApp call you when you get there.
Girl, I'm going to need you to say that to the camera. You were looking at me, and I felt like you were telling me to go. And
No.
I'm Zimbabwean, so I need to take that seriously.
If you are a white person who wants to go to America, fine. We'll WhatsApp call you. We love you so much from here. But if you don't want to pull with us, you don't have to. You can go to the US and you can go pull with them. That's perfectly fine. No hate, no shame. But if you're not on the mission with us...
Han US too. Did I get that right?
VS. Verenigde Staten.
Okay, girl. Now you're unrolling all the Afrikaans. Something else that's interesting that happened in South Africa was the budget speech was postponed for the first time. I'm sorry I'm laughing. You know I'm laughing. For the first time, like since independence, since post-apartheid, it was postponed. The guys couldn't come to agree with regards to a VAT increment. Yes, come see, come sa, fair, fine. But, budget speech, number one, is never supposed to be postponed. But it is the circumstances under which it has been postponed, which is now raising a lot of questions in South Africa, because the parties which are, responsible for this are supposed to be in a government of national unity. Does that effectively mean that the GNU has collapsed? Well, this is what Julius Malema thinks.
Well, the postponement of budget today has rendered Parliament useless. It has got no authority, because budget, whether you agree on it or not, you must bring it here so that it can be debated and ultimately adopted. So there is no government, because if you don't adopt budget, it's clear the government has collapsed. Today we have witnessed the government of national unity, a coalition, grand coalition of DA and ANC, collapsing in front of South Africa, something that we said to all of you, that it will not last. We will never agree to increase of 2% on VAT from 15% to 17%. And that's why they are scared to come here, because it will be rejected.
Now, Malema has his own agenda. And to be fair, they handed it to him.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. They handed it straight to him. He's been trying to figure out his things with Mbuyiseni, Lozi, with losing Floyd Shivambu to the MK. He's been trying to figure his world out. And now they handed this to him because he's been saying the GNU doesn't work. It's not going to work. And it's at such a pivotal moment as the budget speech, everything falls apart.
I would argue that this is exactly what the GNU is for. Maybe you could have done this earlier so that you didn't have to postpone something important. Maybe you could have handled it like adults and sat at a table like adults and discussed this the night before the speech was supposed to take place. But this is what the GNU is for, for saying, listen, ANC, you've been in power for 30 years. You didn't exactly make the people very happy. We, the DA, who represent the other side of the coin, effectively, we disagree. That's what the GNU is for.
Supposed to, but of course, ANC is going to be like, we might not have done things right in the past, but we're trying to do things right now, so what's up? What's wrong with the Bella Act? What's wrong with the Expropriation Act? These are the things that we had promised the populace right at the cusp of independence. We didn't do them for like 30 years. Bite us. But we're going to try now.
But that's what the GNU is for.
They're supposed to
force the ANC to do the things that they promised. Because now they're not assured power anymore in the way that they were.
100%. But the problem now is obviously we're looking at the ANC and DA. DA...
Historical beef.
Historical beef. Put that on the braai and, just
a little bit of kapana spice.
A little bit of kapana spice, let it sizzle, what I mean? So it's very interesting to see how all of this has been unfolding in South Africa, and we'll certainly be paying attention to South Africa because we don't really have a choice.
Yeah, I would say that beef is so historical, it's biltong by now.
It's biltong, but not the best biltong, because as we all know, the best biltong comes from Namibia. Now, Irene, let's close it off with cybersecurity. Tell me, what happened in Namibia?
Yeah, so there's been another cybersecurity incident in Namibia the 13th of February, right before Valentine's Day. I imagine that it wasn't much love at the Paratus office that day. Paratus Namibia, a telecommunications provider, had a cybersecurity incident and a hack of sorts. Not much information as to what mechanism was used, but it tends to be a little bit cloudy usually for the first while. This after the state's telecommunications provider Telecom was hacked in December. And experts concur these are not the only hacks. These are the only hacks that the people are hearing about, that are getting limelight. But there's a lot of talk, there's research done by cybersecurity firms globally. One of them going as far as saying that Africa is a testing ground for nation-state cyber attacks.
I don't like that. See, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I'm not saying the Paratus hack was
No. I mean, there were victims. Paratus were victims over here, and we certainly hope that they've managed to mitigate the situation. And I'm sure they felt like they had taken every precaution. But we're going to come back to this testing.
But cybersecurity is a humongous issue in Africa, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. Some of the experts I spoke with yesterday off the record told me that ministries in Namibia are getting hacked. Everyone's getting hacked.
But you did say, we were speaking earlier, you were saying the Ministry of Information Communication and Technology in Namibia has been, warning people, trying to take some steps in the right direction.
On specific things, they've been working on a cybersecurity act since 2013, which for reference was when I was in grade 7.
Which was when I moved to Namibia. Jeez, how
yes,
old am I?
Exactly. Yeah, so they've been working since 2013, and they've been promising for years. Every time I hear a high-up official at some event talk about cybersecurity in Namibia, they're talking about, we're almost there. How long have you been almost there?
I'm going to play the devil's advocate just for a little bit here. I mean, the technological world has, changed drastically. I mean,
But
no
that's
way
why
what
we
they
need to
need.
act fast.
Yeah, but I'll say no way what they needed to do in 2013 is what they need to do now. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So what if they're just on the turnover of, we're getting into the fourth industrial revolution, and they're just trying to get things together. I guess what you're saying is we don't have the luxury of
This
time.
was supposed to be done before the fourth industrial revolution. We have experts in Namibia and we have experts internationally that we can reach out to that have the foresight to have helped us prepare for the fourth industrial revolution on a legislative level. And we haven't, And I spoke with an expert, Vanessa Maresh from Salt Essential IT yesterday. She said that yes, legislation can scare off attackers, but it's more a recourse should you be attacked. The only thing you can do is to prepare yourself for those situations. Learn to identify phishing attacks, learn to identify where there's a social engineering scam, somebody calls you in the middle of the night, whatever. But people aren't showing interest in that. Companies are not investing into cybersecurity.
What's very interesting though is the MICT did, warn about information on TikTok.
Yes. So the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, from my experience, this is a subjective assessment on my end, they've been quite pacifist around, telling people not to use certain apps and use certain technologies and whatever. But I spoke with a previous PRO for the ministry, Shoki Kanjimi, when he was still there. I believe it was last year. And he went as far as to warn Namibians to be careful for TikTok.
So let's be careful, Namibians and Africans, because apparently the way the world perceives us is that we're a what? Testing ground?
Testing ground for nation-state cyber warfare.
I'm going to tell you something in Namibian context. The last time we were a testing ground was for the Holocaust, when the Nama Herero genocide happened. Thank you, Irene-Mari Van der Walt.
Thank you, Ashwyn.
Always good to have you here. Well, that's been our show. Thank you for watching Second Take. In the coming week, we're going to be dedicating the show to the late, great Dr. Samuel Shafi Shuna Nuyoma. And what a show that's going to be. For now, rest in peace, founding father from the Second Take team. See you soon.